What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5ers create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Jhanilka, and thank you for returning to hear us again. If you haven't already, go back and listen to our more recent episode. I was going to say first episode back. I go back and listen to that, but here we are.
And if you guys are first-time listeners, we want to just reintroduce ourselves. We are...
Jhanilka and Anthony.
Well, yeah, that's important. But we've also run, so we talk about more than a side hustle. We create income outside your 9-to-5s. So I worked as an IT director. I was in IT for about 15 years, and we created essentially a 7-figure side hustle with our cleaning business, and we taught others how to do the same.
And continue to do so.
Do the same. What'd you do at your 9-to-5?
I am a mental health therapist and recently no longer at a 9-to-5, which we'll be diving in today. So that's it.
Yeah, so the More Than a Side Hustle podcast is essentially for people who want to create things outside of their 9-to-5s. And it's funny because...
Now, we're not encouraging you to leave your 9-to-5, outside of your 9-to-5.
This is the intro topic because I literally just got a comment on Instagram and it said, I would love to start this side hustle cleaning business thing and I'm just ready to quit Let me actually read the comment verbatim because this would be a good intro topic. And I know this wasn't what we talked about, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, the way I want to quit my 9-to-5 and bet on this, I just feel like it would change my life. And I want to say, absolutely, I commend you for having that type of energy. But one thing we never tell people to do is quit their 9-to-5 to start a brand new business. That absolutely does not make sense. Yeah. If you have the ability to keep your 9-to-5 while you build a business, that will be more beneficial to you. You can take more risks. It is not more pressure on you. You can test it. There's so many things you can do instead of quitting your 9-to-5. How about you start the business while at your 9-to-5? Use your 9-to-5 money to fund the business and grow it. We kept our 9-to-5s until we were doing $30,000, $40,000 a month. So we do not tell anyone to quit their jobs to start a side hustle or a business.
Fun drinking game. Anytime we say 9-to-5, take a shot.
I said 9-to-5 a lot.
In that first clip, yeah, it was a lot.
I had to make it very clear.
I mean, how else would you say it? Your job.
We had to make it very clear because I don't want anyone listening to us to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job and start doing this thing. Like, that's not what we encourage, at least.
You have to test it out. Many of our students or customers, this is their first business ever. So you have no idea of the emotions, the feelings, the finances, all of that goes into it. So we would never say just quit your job. Test the model, see how it works, see if it works for you. Maybe it's just paying one bill, how it started for us, and then eventually it grows to paying your mortgage and everything else. But you definitely have to test it out before just leaving your job. I would not recommend. 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10, very ghetto. I know entrepreneurship has definitely been on the forefront these last couple years. Yeah. And, you know, when we started our business about, 7 years ago? Mm-hmm. It's going to be 7 years ago, actually. Is it 7 years? It's going to be 8.
7.
It's going to be 7 years in next coming weeks. And no one was talking about, starting a business. So when we did it, it was kind of like, I don't want to say taboo, but it was...
At least for our group. We didn't know anyone that had a business, family, friends.
We didn't have a network of people who had any sort of like, I'm going to do this business or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a thing for us. So when we did, it was like, it's something different. It's brand new. It's scary. Mm-hmm. That's a big one. Starting a business is absolutely scary. So we never tell people to quit their jobs because you never know what happens with that business. Like Jhanilka said, let's say if you don't like it, or I don't want to say if you like it. If you quit your business because you don't like it, that might be a different conversation, but that's not the conversation.
You always like it.
But what happens if you build this business outside your job so that if the day comes where they fire you,
or you want to leave,
you now have options for yourself. So we never tell anyone to quit their jobs. But if you start this business and you lost your job, that might be a different conversation, which is the conversation we are going to have today.
Today, that's what we're speaking about. So, and at the beginning I said that's what we'll be touching on. But what are we? A little over 3 months now. But 3 weeks into maternity leave, I got the call from my job that there was a RIF happening, which is a reduction in force, and my position was eliminated. Now, I was with this company for almost exactly 9 years, and in this position, I don't know, 5 years maybe? In this position, about 5 years. So backstory, previous to that, last year, my manager that was with most of the time left, retired, and then I was like bounced back and forth between 2 different managers. So preparing for maternity leave, I had to basically SOP everything because no one knew anything but me. The information SOP? Specifically, make a standards of procedures for almost everything in my role. The information specifically, no one else knew how to handle it, so I had to do all that. And 3 weeks in, got the call that I was being let go. Now, I know a lot of you are reacting already. Can we sue? Can we do? Are you not upset? What the hell? But that's the reason we speak about entrepreneurship and speak about just doing something outside of your job. And was I upset? Absolutely. If you didn't know,
can we go back to that? I want to go back a little bit because 3 weeks into the maternity leave is a very emotional time.
I said, if you didn't know, I was about to say mothers go through emotions. Okay.
I want to make sure
there's hormones and emotions running.
Yeah.
I was going to say postpartum from a baby. You go through the 9 to 10 months of being pregnant, and then after that, you are postpartum. They say like sometimes it takes a year or so for you to feel normal. But either way, you're going through the emotions of your child, and then this is just piled on top of it. Who needs that stress, right? But at the end of the day, I always say when the crazy things happen, it's like it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. They could care less what I got going on. They just know that they're getting rid of multiple people in the company because they need to make money. Essentially, that's what it is. Unfortunately, that's how it is with corporate, if you want to get to the real deal of it. So, yeah, that there is a lot of emotions involved when you are just had a kid, especially 3 weeks later, but it was what it was. So, yes, I was upset about it and was like, damn. One, it's 9 years, so it becomes part of your identity. I think your career becomes part of your identity in general, and then especially being at a company for a while. 2, just had a kid, and it's like, okay, now is the time when you feel like you need more money in the work. Every dollar you can count, you're losing such a big income stream, especially with me being the only one at a job or traditional 9 to 5 that carries the medical side of it, the benefits, that's what I'm looking for. The benefits, that's another worry about it. And then 3, like, what do I do now? So all of that just happened at once. I'd say 20% of me was like really frustrated. The other 80% was like, you know what? If you've been listening to us for a while, we have said probably for at least 4 or 5 years that eventually both of us would leave the corporate world. Not saying that I would never go back, because I never say never, but eventually we both wanted to leave it. And I don't know that I ever would have done it on my own. So maybe this was just a push to see where things can go, essentially. So with leaving, I did, with the company, still have available some type of package with them until next year. So that's the other part of it. It wasn't so cut and dry, like, okay, bye, see you never. So that has also assisted in the process or the processing of losing my job.
So there was a few things that we had saw earlier on, and this is, you guys can look out for this at your 9 to 5. And there's a lot of reduction in forces going on. If you literally Google layoff right now, I Googled it before this podcast episode.
In my company in under a year.
Yeah, so if you Google layoffs, you'll see Reuters, you'll see Volkswagen, you'll see Dropbox is laying off 20% of its staff. You'll see the information. You'll see Nintendo said that they were laying people off, and then they came back and said they're not. You'll see PepsiCo laying off. They closing multiple plants. Visa to lay off 1,400 employees. So you'll see a lot of layoffs around this time. And it's Walgreens. Walgreens is my spot. It's right there too. So you'll see a lot of layoffs happening in different sectors, especially during an election year. You got so many things happening. You got so much uncertainty. The election year is normally a crazy market. No one knows who's going to win, who's going to lose. So it normally creates this a fear where no one knows what's going to happen. So we saw the writing on a wall, I would definitely say, before you left, because there was a lot of bouncing back between different managers.
Yep.
And then also when they wanted you to like outline everything you were doing and then monitor. I think there was a point where they asked you to monitor your team's like bathroom breaks.
Well, not necessarily, but yeah. And then also I was supposed to be hiring someone else on my team for a role, and I was told I couldn't because we may be going into another rift. Like, it was on pause, that we couldn't hire anybody. Yes, like you said, I had to write everything down. One part of it was that no one else I don't know why it was like that, but for my department, it was literally just my manager that retired last year and me that had all this information. So it made sense with me leaving that I would have to write it out because no one else would know what to do. But at the same time, it made it easier to say, like, okay, well, at least we have this information that we think we can manage now without her being here. So
if they start micromanaging your team's time, then there's definitely going to be a reduction in force.
Yep.
If they start micromanaging, they weren't micromanaging your time, but there was little things that I saw. And the funny thing is,
it also had to do with the type of person too.
Yeah,
that was managing me.
Yeah, so me coming from a company where it was just so small. That's one of the pros of being at a small company. And I went out to dinner with one of my with the person who hired me, and that's one of the pros about being at a small company, that you get to see every single part of the company. Even if the CEO does a job, I was numbering 12 employees, so the things that I was able to see from not just for CEO, from every part of the organization as we grew. I was like, oh, I've seen this in that part of the organization. This is what's happening in yours. And it was like little things. I'm like, oh, they're going to tell you that you got to start firing
And the difference
people.
between your company and mine is that I have like 50,000 people plus in my company.
But the 50,000 employee company is just a 10-person company just exploded by the amount of people. So I was able to see that part. So I was like, oh, I was like, okay, they're going to start telling you to do this. They're going to start telling you to do that. And then when you started SOPing your role, I think there was a time when I said, oh yeah, this meeting is probably going to be to fire you, I think.
Oh yeah, when I got the call and then I asked my manager. But of course, she couldn't say it. I mean, I'm pretty blunt. Some people probably would have never asked. She was caught off guard because she was silent for at least 5 seconds.
And I told you what I would have did if I would have got that call, because I probably wouldn't have told you that you were getting fired. I think, what did I say? I would have gave you a hint that the call wasn't.
Yeah.
And
and I said to you, because you had a smaller team. My manager, me and her didn't have that rapport because she had just been managing me for like six months max. So I didn't
Hopefully
expect
this podcast
that as
doesn't
well.
get back to your office either.
What? I didn't say anything negative.
True.
So I didn't expect that, that as well. I think maybe if I had my other manager, maybe I would have gotten some type of hint. But the silence
wouldn't change anything.
It wouldn't change anything. The silence was a hint enough for me.
Yeah.
So that's how that went. And
so after it happened,
yeah,
like the immediate emotion for you, how did you feel? So you got
immediate emotion, got the call, said I have to have a meeting tomorrow. Am I available for a meeting tomorrow?
While you're on leave.
While I'm on leave. And
this is a life or death meeting.
So when I asked what was this for me to, she's like, well, why would you think that? And I was like, because I'm on leave.
You a damn liar.
Why would I be being called in? I am on leave. So you tell him you told HR, you calling me in for a meeting while I'm on leave, and y'all gonna pay me for that 30-minute that I come in? So
that was a sign.
That was like, you didn't have to tell me yes, but I understood. So yes, then I got on the call. It was this basic, you have to read from a spiel. I've read it last year to one of my people, so you just have to read.
I've read it thousands of times.
Yeah. So you just have to read, and that's it. Do you have any questions? Blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, you'll get other forms after this, which is out of their hands after that. And that's essentially it. I just was rolling my eyes in anger. I'm like, 3 weeks in, huh? I did say that though on the call on maternity leave.
3 weeks in, that's what you're gonna do to me. You should have flipped the table.
Like that.
You should have flipped the virtual table on their asses.
Because at that point, there's nothing that can be done. And maybe if you want to fight for it, you're in a different position and you really love your job and you're like, no, I'm fighting for that. Okay. But it was like, okay. Yeah. That's how I took it. I'm like, okay.
So where does that leave things now? So that was the whole situation.
Yep.
So now 3 weeks in. So now we are about. So what does it look like today?
Yeah, our daughter is a little over 3 months. So we've gotten past that now. What it looks like today. So prior to, I think, the week of having our daughter, I was in a place of like asking what else I could do. I don't know, within the company, within the business, within our followers, people that listen to us, our listeners, because we do everything together. And I just was like, I need to do more outside of him. Not that Anthony is pushing me away or anything like that, but he has encouraged me many times that I should be doing things independently. But I always felt like, but what? Mm-hmm. So I had to ask that question. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start, especially now that I was let go. I was like, I'm going to just put myself out there on social media and see what I like to talk about. Children, now in this new space that I'm pivoting, being a wife, all these things, traveling, all these things. I'm just going to put it out there. So that's what I'm in the phase of doing, just putting content out there and seeing where it goes. Also helping out more in your head. You're like, how can I help out any more in this business? Because I was heavy in this when I had my job, but also helping out more in the business, a bit more detailed, if you will, is something that I'm doing. And yeah, just doing a little bit of everything is what I'm doing. Enjoying our daughter, being able to spend more time with her, our newest daughter. So that's what I've been doing, a little bit of everything, but still trying to figure out, I know for us, still trying to figure out what's my exact role now that I have more available time, which it doesn't feel like that, by the way.
It definitely doesn't.
The day flies.
But one of the things that I was saying that we should do is that, like, we've always worked together all these years, but now it's like trying to figure out an actual structure of what our working relationship is. Because it used to be like, oh, you do this, you do this. Mm-hmm. Now it's
based on the time I had.
Based on the time you had. Now that you have, the time that you have is like, all right, how can we structure this in a way where it makes sense, but it's also something that
you want to do.
Yeah. So I was like, we should take this. Like Eric Thomas, you guys don't know who Eric Thomas is. He's a motivational speaker. He has this thing called like the flight assessment. And the flight assessment tells you the type of personality you have, things that light you up, things that make you feel better, and things that you are truly good at. So I was like, we need to really sit down, because before, especially when you're working as a couple earlier on, it's just like you got to do everything. Now we're not at a place where you have to do everything, but it should still be some structure around it.
Right.
So I was saying that we should take these assessments to figure out like what is our personality traits and things that we are good at, so that, and this came up because we were on a meeting the other day and I was like, oh, you're knocking this meeting out. You was like, oh, we're gonna do this. It was kind of like so the flight assessment is like, you got the pilot, like they drive the plane and make sure you guys land. And then you got like positions like the grounds crew, right? So they're not going to be as vocal as a pilot. They're not going to be, the position's not as sexy as a pilot, but they're doing the things to make sure things get done, right? Like
land safely,
making sure you land, which is a very important role, right? So it's not like anyone's more important than the other, but it's like, how do you build off of your traits and not just the way you think you would do good at, but the actual way that your body and your mind function, so that this is something you could do. So I think that would be extremely helpful for us to take, so that we could actually say, oh, well, Jhanilka's actually
this role or
that role, and how do we fit that role into what you're currently doing? So I think that's probably gonna be something that we should all do.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's just,
and everyone should do that for their own personalities too.
Yeah, it's been difficult to just catch, because you wake up, okay, you're making breakfast, and then the baby, you're like back and forth as well. Even though we do have help, we have an au pair, but she doesn't work 24/7, obviously. So you're back and forth and in and out of like baby mode. Now she's napping. Okay, let me go work for an hour and a half. And then, so you're doing a bit of that. And it's like, how do you find that balance and still have to show up, right? Because yes, we have Cleaning Business University. We also have a cleaning business. We also have our podcast. We have content we have to make. We also have residential properties, and we have a life, right? So everything else happening in between, appointments, events, travel, all these other things are still happening. Those aren't stopping. So trying to balance all of it has been a thing. I know for you, even, you're 3 years into full-time entrepreneurship come December, and you're like, I'm still trying to find you're still trying to find like a cutoff or block off time and stuff like that. So I can't imagine that within 2 months I would have it figured out, which I don't. But hopefully within the next few months or beginning of the year, whatever, I can find a bit more structure. Right now it's all over the place.
And that was one of the blessings that a 9-to-5 grants you. So anyone that's listening to this, if you do have a 9-to-5, the blessing is that you have structure built into your day already set.
Yeah.
So after your job, exactly the things you have to do. And that's the only time that you can do it, after your job. For us, it's like, all right, now you have during the day, you got during the night. Sometimes we do night calls. Sometimes we do morning calls.
But we still treat it as like a 9-to-5. Like once our oldest daughter comes home, then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like we don't watch TV shows during the day. It's only at night. Like only at night. The same way it would have been, which that's not how I expected my life to be. And that's something that we had said that we probably would struggle with if I ever did become, a full-time entrepreneur. It was like, I am like, some days I don't want to get out of bed to 10:30, 11. And he's like shaming, like, what? It's 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's time to get the day going. But for me, I'm like, the point of this is to be able to not get the day going at that early if I don't want to. So that's like something that we're like speaking about. I'm like, if I want to stay in bed and watch SVU all day, I have the right to do that. But how do you manage that if I'm doing that?
My problem was that the world works around business hours. So no matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, most of your money is going to be made during the hours of people working. That's what money is evolving most of the time, right? That's when the stock market is open between the hours of 7 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever it is. So that's where money is being made during those hours. So it's hard for me, like weekends, right? If I work on a weekend, I'm not making much money on a weekend because most of the people who are operating their businesses are working during the week. So weekends is just mainly for, I'm going to do content, or I'm going to do what I like to call quiet work, deep work, silent work, where it's nobody else working but me. So I might draft up the emails for the week, or I might do this, or I might schedule some content. So the weekends are more for quiet work, but if you truly want to make money, it's going to be during business hours.
The only thing I've been able to have him open up to doing is doing like date nights during the week.
Yeah, I've been doing
and not
that.
have to work, not have to wait, until Friday or Saturday night when it's so busy doing a date night in the week. Or if we go somewhere, I haven't really got him comfortable going to lunch during the week outside of the home. But if we go somewhere that we can go to the mall during the week, we don't have to wait till the rush. I mean, he's been able to do that
I don't
for a
go to the
while.
mall during the weekend at all.
Yeah. Well,
I don't go to Target during the weekends at all.
I used to have to wait till after hours, and so now it's just figuring all of that out. But a question I did have for you was, what was your reaction to, me losing my job, or this new role at least?
To you losing your job, it was kind of, let me silence my phone, sorry. So you losing your job is kind of like, I think we both had the same reactions, like, oh, damn, that sucks. And then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the power of like having things going for you. This is why it goes back to the original conversation we had where people are like, oh, I want to quit my job to start a business. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't.
So if you're able.
Can you really manage that?
So it's like, if you do lose your job and you do have these things going on, you're kind of like, all right, well, what's next? And then also, obviously, the company, you was there for 9 years. So they, made sure some things happen for you.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, okay, well, what's next? Like, what do you want to do now? How do we get this thing going? It's like, all right, can we make more money now that we have you full time?
Yeah. Which we've been able to, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a direct impact now, but we've been able to make more money, come together more, being more, we were able to start the podcast back up, being more intentional about just doing what we want to do for the businesses and that type of stuff. So we're excited to see where it goes. We don't have everything down packed. Like I said, doesn't mean I'll never be back at a job, but I don't think I will be back at one, God willing, anytime soon. Soon, like probably at least a year of making our businesses work and showing up. And the next big thing for us is really getting detailed on our roles, or specifically my role, on top of me building my own stuff independently. Like I teased in the first episode back that yes, I'm doing content. I possibly want to do like my own podcast, or maybe it's just a segment on here. So having the time and opportunity and freedom to do those things versus being boggled down by something for 8-9 hours for someone else. So excited to see where life goes at this point, actually. Ending the year with a bang, definitely. We tend to do that. That happened the last time with you too. It was the end of the year.
Yeah,
December.
It was. And that was you had said something that I wanted to touch on. Damn, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh man.
It was about something about the job. But yeah, that's one of the things where we're able to see where this goes, and see where we're going to take it. And then you guys, that's why we do the show, is like you guys can be along for the journey, right? We kind of caught you up for the last couple of months on what's been happening, and this has been a more detailed of that situation. Now we're able to see, all right, where does the next 6-9 months take us? So you guys get to be a fly on the wall, not only of our lives, but as we bring, continue to bring guests on and, student success stories and things like that, you guys get to see what's happening around us, and not just with our lives. So,
yep. Well, thank you for coming back for another episode of More Than a Side Hustle podcast. Make sure you are leaving a review. I know it's been a while we asked for it, but we still need the reviews. If you're listening every week, thank you so much.
And if you stayed to the end of this episode, you definitely got some value on it. So definitely drop us a link, drop us a review. And if you want to learn how to start your own remote cleaning business without cleaning any houses, check out our workshop, cleaningbusinessmasterclass.com, where we give you the A to Z on how you can start your business without cleaning any houses.
Yep. See you next week.
Peace.